What's up, everyone? Coming at you with another summer review session. Today, I just want to talk a little bit about the differences between realism and liberalism from our PSIR unit, power, sovereignty, and international relations. So, when we talk about power, we often talk about the different ways that states and non-state actors kind of view the world, what actions they take that lead them to kind of operate within this international system. We talk about the international system being kind of anarchical, which means there's no like super government, right, that everyone has to play by the same rules. You know, we have the UN, we have the UDHR, but there's no guarantee that states have to abide by those things. So what states do then is they kind of take actions that are could be perceived as realist or liberalist in nature. So let's talk about some of those things here today. Hopefully it's a review. Hopefully it's some things that we kind of remember from our study of PSIR this year. So realists, they see the world as it is rather than what it could be, right? So that's like in a very general sense. And when you think about realism in a classical sense, we're talking about like Thomas Hobbes, we're talking about Machiavelli. People really can't be trusted, right? People are at their base really selfish, really negative, right? And so you need like a really strong government to keep people in line. When we think about Thomas Hobbes and Leviathan, the sovereign, right? There has to be some kind of sovereign power that keeps everyone under control. When we think about Machiavelli, it's better to be feared than loved, right? So what people who study international relations have done over a long period of time is they then take that kind of classical sense and they've moved it to the structural or to the state sense, right? So instead of people acting a certain way, it's how do states act, right? So structural realists might talk about offensive and defensive realism, right? Offensive realists, states want to become the most powerful in the region, something we refer to as the hegemon or hegemony, right? Defensive realists think that's kind of stupid, right? It's really not logical to try to just expand your power without limit, because it's really tough to hold on to. You're going to make enemies along the way. So to protect oneself in a defensive realist state makes a lot more sense. So here are some important things to remember about realism. Offensive realists believe it is possible, and since power is kind of this limited, finite resource, they should get as much of it as they can, right? So being the strongest state in whatever that context is. They believe that since states operate in an anarchic system, there's no reason to not grab as much power as you can. States are the most important actors in global politics in the international community. Not people, not groups, not IGOs, not NGOs, states. And states should work their hardest to get as much power as they can. Power is the most important commodity. It's the most important resource, and everything that happens in the international community is a result of power and states trying to grab as much of it as they can. Realists also believe that you really shouldn't trust one another, right? And it's because all states have the ability at some level to wage war, right? Some kind of military power that allows them to use hard power. So you should do the same. You can never know what states are up to. You can never really know. That's why military is so important. That's why power accumulation is so important. States, their primary goal, first and foremost, is to survive, right? States are going to do what's best for them at all times, right? So an important name to remember, John Mearsheimer. He's a structural realist. He's the one who talks about offensive realism and how it is absolutely possible to gain as much power as possible, versus someone like Hans Morgenthau, who talks about people cannot be trusted, people are selfish in nature, and it is really important to kind of operate using those definitions of the world and those perspectives on the world, right? So realists, hey, this is the way things are, for better or for worse. I need to operate a certain way in this system. So states acting rationally, doing what's best for them, being kind of inherently selfish to protect themselves, and when possible, expand their power as much as possible.